Hello?
Yo,
Hello?
how's it going?
Good, man. What's going on?
Nothing much.
It's been a minute.
Been a while.
GM, DGens. I almost missed it. I was getting my coffee. I almost forgot my coffee. You'll be very proud of me. I stopped putting sugar in my coffee.
That's good. It counteracts the caffeine.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I did what you did. Just splash of cream. It's working out.
Mm-hmm. Correct. That is.
It took me a while. I had to wean myself off of it, but it feels good.
It's the way.
What the fuck, man? What's up? How's it going?
Going great, man. How about you?
I'm good. I'm feeling refreshed. I had a nice week off. It was an interesting week for that to happen. So it was hard not to completely detach myself from what was going on. But yeah, it was good. Feeling refreshed. The weather here was beautiful. It felt like kind of summer is just on the horizon, and doing all right. How about you? How was your week?
It was great. It was very nice.
Tell me about it. Talk to me.
It was a interesting week to say the least. I suppose Albert Einstein said that to his child, when they asked what they wanted for him, he said, "May you live in interesting times." So it was interesting times last week. Albert Einstein got his wish. I guess that's all we can ask.
Interesting times, yeah, to say the least. Fireworks. For those of you who haven't been through one of these kind of cycles in crypto, welcome. It is painful. It is what's the word? Engrossing. It's pretty hard to look away, even though you kind of want to. And it creates some diamond hands too. If you can hold on for dear life, and provided you didn't have a giant bag of Luna, you will make it through. And the next time it happens, you'll be able to sleep soundly while it occurs. But while it's happening, and I mean, it's hard to say. We still kind of are going through it. We're not out of the woods yet, but you learn to deal with it. You learn to recognize that it's not dead. It doesn't mean that it's the end of everything. And I think that's the most important thing to kind of really help you sleep well. I think. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I know you do stuff like this.
We hope. Sleep with one eye open. No, we're kidding. Everything's gonna be open.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't necessarily think that we're in this territory that will potentially ever go back to it. But for those of you that entered the market and I this was way before my time, but 2012, 2013, there was a very, very extended bear period where all throughout it, people said crypto dead, not doing anything. It's 2017 rolls around, and then there's a spike in the summer, and then it just goes on an absolute tear in the winter. And then it crashes, and it crashed hard. It crashed violently. A lot of the altcoins got shook out. They never recovered. And, people said crypto dead for a long time. 2018, 2019, 2020. It just was flat, down. And, here we are. Still well above the levels we got to in 2017. And, a lot of new people will say, a lot of social media, a lot of your friends that aren't in the market and whatnot will say, "Oh, it's dead. See, I told you so. All you got to do is just zoom out a little bit. We're still here." So,
what happened last week went from macro to systemic, and that's why it got so bad. We went from following the NASDAQ one for one, completely correlated to risk assets, whether they were risk on or risk off. And then we had Luna, which became a crypto-specific systemic issue in which the word contagion was thrown about, which I hadn't heard in a long time. And that is why things got as bad as they are. That is why we are not out of the woods yet. And that Combination now of macro and crypto systemic risk has certainly left people looking for liquidity and not knowing what to do.
Yeah. That, especially Luna being a top 10 coin, I can't say that in terms of that. I can't say I've ever seen anything like that go down. That was violent. That was fast. I mean, maybe BitConnect, but a completely different story. When that happens, it definitely creates a lot of that fear that if that can happen, if it can happen to Luna, it can happen to anything. I would say the only two that you should really, 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 truly be worried about that actually happening to, like a crash that hard, is Bitcoin and ETH. If either of those two were to fall apart on any kind of level that creates that systemic kind of destruction, that would, I would actually be worried about the state of crypto at that point. But other than that, throw me your worst. I don't know. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, no, I am bearish on crypto. I am very bullish on NFTs.
For sure. Well, you know what? We're going to talk about that. So why don't we actually just, we'll get the show going. We will get into a bigger market discussion about that, because I know you have a lot to say about it and you were tweeting a lot about it. But of course, the show being off last week, we didn't give you that chance to run with it. So hit me with that drum roll and we'll get it going. GM Degens, and welcome back to the AM Morning Show. It is May 16th, and we have had a bit of a break, a bit of a week off, but we are back here for episode 123. So happy to be back up on the stage. I am your host, R2 Degen, with me every single weekday morning, Free Market Capitalist.
Hey now.
Yeah, it was quite a week to kind of sit on the sidelines with the show, but I'm just going to tell you, I needed it personally. And you know what, honestly, with what happened in the market, for my own sake, it was actually pretty good. I did a lot of walking, spent a lot of time outside, reconnected with a bunch of people. So I appreciate everyone's understanding during that, because in that time, there's lots to talk about. People want to kind of be there for each other and talk through it, and feel like we're all in this together. But I promise you, we are all in this together. And now we are back here talking about it. So Free Market, your week was good. You were tweeting about it. You were talking about, of course, the market crash, Terra, Luna just going to almost zero, and everything else in between. How you feeling?
I feel very good. I was in the mix of it the whole time, live tweeting the end of the world as it happened, and we hit a low of, I think, 1750 on ETH.
Yeah, it got down below 1800 for sure.
And we saw the collapse of Luna. And then we saw Luna rise from the dead. But while it has risen to quite the market cap, rallying to a top 30 coin over the weekend, anybody who was invested in it before the depegging was completely diluted, as now there are 6 trillion Luna coins in circulation. And while the market cap got up to, I believe, $5 or $6 billion yesterday, it did not even begin to make original investors whole. And the systemic risk and contagion risk caused by Luna is a fallout we're still dealing with this morning. Here is a question that markets will answer, and us as observers can only watch, but is the bad news baked in? We have now come over 50% off the highs on ETH, on Bitcoin. You have to remember where we came from. Okay, I know that we've had a lot of support levels and false rallies, and your brain has been reprogrammed down, but ETH was up to $4,800. We're over 50% off the high. And how much of all of this is already baked in? to that price. Not saying I know, but it's something you start to ponder. And it's the same thing with the stock market. We just got the worst New York Fed manufacturing index report I think I've ever seen. You would expect markets to be tanking right now. And while they're not up, they are basically flat on the day. That starts to tell me that prices are starting to bake in the worst expectations.
Yeah, I've heard from some of the like the podcasts and stuff that I listen to a bunch of varying theories and feelings towards it, saying there are some people based on some metrics that I don't really understand, but basically say we're only about 20% of the way down. On certain metrics, and then there are some say that this is actually feeling like a pretty good bottom spot, and that the worst is out there, that some volume has to kind of go through, and everything will be shaken out and some consolidation around here, but that it does feel like a pretty good bottom spot. Like Luna, the damage has been done, as you said. If you were in Luna at any point before the crash last week, it is there's probably no coming back from that, but I think it's pretty safe to say we know where that's at now, right? Like, is it time that the market can just move on? And I know you don't exactly have an answer for that, but is that your feeling?
Again, I believe that we have seen the worst of it. Bottoming, as I say ad nauseum, and people have heard a million times, is a process, not a moment. I'm not saying that we can't go back to 1750, nor that we would undercut it slightly. I mean, there's two patterns markets love to bottom on. Those are double bottoms, and those are inverse head and shoulders. They've been the most common bottoming patterns historically. An inverse head and shoulders would suggest we would dip down to 1400, come back up to that 2000 neckline, dip back to 1750 again, and then you would have your left shoulder, your head, and your right shoulder, and that would be a good bottom. Or you can have a double bottom. Now, something we have seen more recently in risk markets is the V bounce. Now, that's a very aggressive, reflexive move to what happened. I'm not sure we quite get the V this time, because whereas during the pandemic in 2020, when we got a major V bounce off the bottom, markets had gotten way, way, way too pessimistic about the possibilities of what could happen. And we're discounting how much stimulus was going to be thrown at the market. That combination is what caused the V. This time around, there is some genuine bad news out there. Like I just said, the Empire Manufacturing Index was supposed to come in at plus 25 today. It was a minus 11. I want you to think about that. That is a 36-point discrepancy in what they expected out of the New York Fed Manufacturing Index. That's about as good a beat on on the economy and GDP as you can get. That screams recession. Now, I know, again, it's backwards looking. And I do think that what I've kept trying to implore is that the majority of what can go on is already baked in. But our risk is that, hey, it gets worse. That's certainly possible. We don't know, but it's possible. And today's Fed report was scary. If you want to know how markets think about things, especially recently, the idea has been that the worst bad news is good news, because if we get bad economic news, it tends to force the Fed to either stop raising interest rates, increase quantitative easing, stop quantitative tightening, all those good things. So that was the initial reaction today off of the number, where people are almost like, oh, it's so bad, but hey, maybe that means they'll stop raising it. I don't know about that. If we keep getting terrible economic news that implies that whatever's going on is worse than we thought, it's just going to get worse than we thought. So while I think I have positioned myself like the worst is over, today's report was not good, and we have to watch. Because I think Luna is relatively contained. I mean, if I was going to use a metaphor for Luna, it was a ship that hit an iceberg, but we were able to seal off that part of the ship. So while it flooded, we can continue to our destination. Now we have to hope
Like,
that
you're talking about the ship as like the crypto market as a whole.
the crypto market as a whole
Yep.
hit an iceberg, and that compartment has filled up, but it did not sink the ship. We've sealed it off. We need to keep it sealed off in that sense. We cannot let it become contagion. So it feels like Luna did not break us, but now, again, we are a mercy to macro markets. There is a crazy disjointment and dislocation going on in the world because of something I have talked about now for months, and that is the bond market. All of this is due to the bond market and its incredible 8.5% rise so far this year, which is 4 times as much as it has ever since we have been recording moved. That is what is causing what you are seeing. We need to see bonds stabilize. It's not about eliminating inflation or stopping a trend. It's about slowing the rate in which the trend is moving. And right now it's moving so fast, people tend to just go risk off. So we need that to slow. Keep your eye on the 30-year Treasury bond, the 10-year Treasury bond, and the NASDAQ. It's what I think is driving us currently.
So let me ask you this one last question then, because if we zoom out on the chart to, let's say, like the last, where are we here? May. Well, I guess really just the last, a little bit over a year, right? We had a big run up to 4,200 in ETH, and then you remember it, I'm sure, a very, very sharp crash down to 2,100. Some crazy volatility before bottoming out and hitting that double bottom pattern that you mentioned. At around 1,800. Now, since that point, we have gotten to new all-time highs, and it was quite a big rise up right after that. And then, it was a couple months later, or about 5 months later, that we actually hit those all-time highs. Is there potential for that there too? Like, if you zoom out on this chart, are we kind of almost hitting another like double bottom in a macro sense? Is
that's the worst looking chart I've
is
ever
it?
seen. That is a classic
the head and shoulders, right? Yeah, okay.
That looks like it is target. Now, if you wanted to do classic TA and figure out what the target was for that, your base target would be from the shoulders down to the arms. So I'm guessing that is that's about $1,000. So we would be looking around $800.
Well, I'm so glad I asked.
Yeah. No, there's nothing good about that chart. We need it to turn around for reasons other than technicals, which is not a good place to be.
I got you. All right. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about Luna then. Can you kind of describe to me what that situation what actually happened with that? Was it caused by the market starting to take a downturn, or was it the market, or was Luna kind of about to go through that and dragged the rest of the market down? Because it was a top 10 coin. It wasn't just some random shit coin that had a sharp rise up and a steep drop down. I mean, we see those on a daily basis. Luna carried some weight in this in this industry at that point.
So I can tell you the story of what happened here. I want to zoom out as much as possible, because
on the Luna chart, or just like in general?
In general, because you need to understand what Luna is and what a stable coin is, and how there are different types of them and what they are backed by. This is an algorithmic stable coin, which means that an algorithm buys and sells the underlying peg to keep it pegged to whatever the asset is, which is the dollar. And this particular stable coin was backed with Bitcoin. Okay. That left it open, and without getting too deep into the weeds here, because I could talk about the math and what happened, your eyes would likely glaze over. It is very interesting if you are a nerd, and I will summarize it after I say this. But the basic idea here is that there was an ability to exploit this algorithm based on what it was pegged with if we got a certain type of volatility. Now, the market starting to tank provided the opening for that. So it allowed the condition to be there in which this play could be made. What play is that? So it took a very, very small, and now we know 100,000 Bitcoin, a very relatively small bet to target this peg and try to take it down. Now, people had pointed out this weakness for a while, but as we know, when number goes up, when things are going well, it doesn't really matter what the weaknesses are. It is only when the tide goes out that you find out who is swimming naked. And a fun targeted Luna.
Sorry, do you need to get that? Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna cut in there while free market, I think, has to answer a door or something. Vitalik did weigh in on this, along with CZ, of course, of Binance, saying algo stable has become a propaganda term serving to legitimize uncollateralized stables by putting them in the same bucket as collateralized stables like DAI. A lot of people obviously agreeing with that, but it says, UST, the Terra, isn't backed by cash or assets like other leading stablecoins. Instead, an algorithm ties UST's value to Luna via a burning minting mechanism designed to keep UST at $1. That mechanism collapsed last week, wiping out UST and Luna, and with them some $40 billion in value.
Yeah, exactly. And the rumor around Wall Street and around crypto was that Citadel was the one who targeted Luna. And
everybody loves to put Citadel on the stand, right?
Yeah, and I will say that Citadel and BlackRock have both denied their involvement, though I have heard from I've heard from multiple sources it was them, unrelated sources, so I'll say that. But this was not the reason. This was almost poetic in a way, is because the way that Citadel or whoever it was that targeted Luna did it was essentially broadcast exactly by multiple people. But I saw a lot of people going, "Oh, it was a top 10 coin. Don't feel bad. Who could have known this was a black swan?" Blah, 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 blah. Well, I will tell you that the exploit that occurred over the weekend was laid out in a very, very, very interesting tweet thread on November 25th, 2021 by Freddie Reynolds. And I will read out a small bit of it so you understand exactly what happened. But you essentially could long $100 million of Luna, all right? And then you purchase $100,000 of Luna and immediately withdraw it from the exchange, swap it for Tether, using the Terra seigniorage mechanism. And then that fee's 0.5%. So if you repeat that 10,000 times with a bot, you've accumulated $500 million of UST for about 502 million bucks. All right. This is giving you a PNL roughly of negative $2.5 million, but you're just setting up your play. Now you sell your initial $100 million of Luna. Okay. Now, since there's already been $500 million market bought, okay, it's a reasonable estimate here that you would be up about $30 million after making that next move. Now you deposit $200 million worth of Bitcoin ETH on the Anchor protocol and take out a loan of $100 million of UST. Now, I'm going to stop explaining here because this is why I didn't go too deep into the strategy of what they did. It's very complicated, but the point of that thread is that it was made on November 26, 2021. And I'm going to post it so that you guys can see it if you want to read it in deep or if you nerd out on that type of stuff. But exactly what was said in this thread happened. So you could have seen this coming if you understood how this algo was set up and what type of market volatility could cause it. And I guess to bottom line it, because it was backed in Bitcoin and Bitcoin started to fall, you were able to buy a bunch of Luna, sell it short, take Bitcoin, short the Bitcoin, force the peg to go unpegged, and then cause a snowball effect that made it go to zero. And from what I understand, they made $1 billion on this play just from that one play alone. Very, very impressive. And obviously, the villain in all of this would be the creator, Do Kwon, as there were a chorus of people who, even if they didn't lay out this specific strategy, which again, I will post the thread and show you that a few people did, he was told over and over again that this type of backing and this type of coin could not work. And his basic response was he was going to, and he didn't say this, but it succinctly puts it, that he was going to basically create what's known as a prisoner's dilemma in game theory, a lose-lose, if you will. By creating Luna and backing it with $10 billion worth of Bitcoin, he would have created an entity so big within crypto that if it were to fail, it would take down all of crypto with it. So he forced a shitty protocol with an exploitable algorithm through the system, but knew if he could borrow enough money and make it large enough that people would have to support it, not because it was good, not because it was the right way to run a stable, but because if it failed, it could cause systemic. He tried to hold all of us fucking hostage with the prisoner's dilemma. This has turned him into quite the villain, especially if you really want to get.
Sorry, this is Do Kwon you're talking about, right?
This is Do Kwon.
Yeah.
And if you really want, we can get into some of the sadder stories over the weekend about people literally losing everything they had, people taking their own lives. And I don't know how you deal with that as a founder when you know that your actions caused that. Mm-hmm. But the blowback from this is almost exactly what he predicted. Could something this big take down all of crypto? Well, we see what it did last week. I don't think it is going to. It is relatively contained to an extent, and we don't know what's going on with Luna. If you follow my Twitter over the weekend, you know that I bought Luna, and it's pretty interesting because if you had asked me a week and a half ago, I wouldn't have known what Luna was. If you had said Luna to me, I would have known it was a coin, a crypto. I couldn't have told you it was backing a stable. I couldn't have told you what it did. I didn't know. I am notoriously an alt L1 bear. I think all alt L1s are pointless. They're going to zero. That ETH is the only blockchain that matters. We can argue about that at another time, but because of that, I ignore all that shit. I don't know anything about Avalanche, Solana, Phantom, Luxor, whatever, any of these alto. I just ignore them. So I had heard about it. I didn't know anything about it. Okay. But when the market decides something is dead, when it decides something is going to zero, and it was quite the move in Luna as people tried to buy it at, it was at $110 before this happened. People tried to buy it at $60, at $20, at $10, at $1. And then as it went to literal zero, in other words, down to 10 cents and a penny, people tried to buy it again. But then what happened is it went to even zero-er, as
a lot of zeros,
to a tenth of a penny, to 100th of it. And every time people tried to buy that along the way, 99% down. You'd put in $1,000, it would turn into $1. You'd put in $1,000, it would say 99%. All the people are like, oh, it can keep going to zero.
Right.
And
well, because I saw people on Twitter being like, I think it essentially got memed, but like, Terra Luna is the best play to buy right now. It's already down 94%. Your downside now is only 6%. Smash the buy button and be like, wait, what? How am I down 99% now? Right? Like,
and remember,
if you're playing this game, understand some math here.
Your stock or your coin could go down 99% forever and still have value. Remember that this is the tricky math that I guess caught a lot of people the wrong way over the weekend. But I had been watching this. Now, I had generally not even really had a temptation to try, but I wait for extremes in my, if I was really disciplined, I'd probably take 2 or 3 trades a year, and I would just make huge, outsized, enormous bets on those trades, because there are a few moments in markets every year when people get violently off sides. And the way not only Luna had become just this, it's dead, it's zero. I can't believe anybody ever, it was max FUD as bad as it can. Well deserved. I'm not saying it wasn't deserved, but we were at max fucking bear FUD fury, blah, 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 blah. And there were 6 zeros in front of the number. It had turned into Safe Moon, essentially, because the technical aspect here is that Luna itself keeps minting tokens if they're not burned to maintain the peg. So once the peg was lost, it would just keep creating tokens because they weren't being burned. So the reason it kept going even lower was because it was just this unlimited amount of tokens being burned. And people kept posting it. And when it got to 6 zeros, something inside of me just said, you know what? I'm throwing some fucking money at this. Whatever. Let's take a flyer. And
I saw a lot of people doing that. And I actually, provided it's a comfortable amount of risk for you, don't think it was like a bad play. But yeah, sorry, keep going.
Yeah. And I threw some money at it. And within 20 minutes, an announcement came out. They had paused the chain. Okay. Now, once you pause, what happens? It stops making tokens. Instant reflexive action. Within 20 minutes, I was up 10x from where I buy. I had never seen a 10x happen that quickly. Then 15x, then 25x. And within 20 hours, it was up 125x from where it had found its lows. And it continued to even go up more. I believe at its peak, it was up about 200x off the lows. It's pulled back 50% now. So back down to about 100x off those lows. So it is still quite the cook off the bottom. The funny part is it is a top 30 coin. It's funny when something goes to zero. Yes, the nominal price. Maybe you could see what the actual cap is there. I think it's like 2 billion now, or
it's changing rapidly. It's at 1.2 billion right now, and it's number 58. But this morning, it could have been in the top 30. I mean, it is a wild ride.
Sambo, I sold 90% of my position I'm still holding 50 million of them. So it's my little moon bag. We'll see. Here's why I had 800 million originally when I bought the position, and I sold most of them, but I'm holding 50 million because, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money in this protocol. Okay. If you remember Mike Novogratz over the last 2 months, he got a tattoo that with a wolf that said lunatic. He literally got a Luna tattoo after investing in Luna. Now, these people tend to try something, okay? I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm not saying they're going to have a good plan, but you think they're just going to you think that's just it? You don't think there's going to be one rumor coming up this week where it's like, oh, some fund's going to throw $3 billion into the protocol and, blah, 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 blah. I think that could provide a pump to like half a cent, maybe even a penny, which at a penny, it would be the largest coin that isn't ETH or Bitcoin. Think about that. But does the market cap even matter right now? We talk about why market cap is such an imperfect measure for, especially for coins, okay? Especially for networks and protocols. But even in larger markets, in the short term, it means nothing. With it, if you're talking about a day or a week or a moment, market cap doesn't mean anything. Like there was a point, and I forget exactly when it was. It was sometime in the early 2000s when some Chinese oil company like got above $1 trillion market cap for a week. This was when the largest company in the world was like $100 billion. Like
there was also a point in time when one of the Ripple co-founders was the richest man on earth, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't mean shit.
Shit happens on paper all the time, but that doesn't mean that it's actually worth that or that money is there or anything like that. But because of buy-sell dynamics and mechanics and, okay, let's say there's some believable report that comes out Tuesday that Luna can be saved. Now, most people don't understand supply, market cap. There's 6 trillion coins. There was 3 billion. Your average person looks at a Luna chart, saw it went from $100 to $0, and thinks, oh, if it's saved, it could go to $10. Yes, why not $10? $10.
I'm glad that you're saying this too, right? Because if you're buying now, do not buy this and hold with the intention of like it could go back to all-time highs. I see people making those plays all of the time. A lot of the 2017, 2018 altcoins, when they crashed 95, 99% over the course of 2 years, you held on to them. And I'm totally guilty of this now, and I won't be guilty of this anymore. But thinking like, oh, if it just, if the crypto market cap grows this much and it can get back to its all-time high, plus that much that it goes, it should be worth this much. It's not going to happen. It's 100 times over more true with Luna based on the dynamics that are going on right now. If you're buying now, you are not going to trillion X your money by the time to get it back to $112 a coin or whatever the all-time high was, 119.
Right.
And I think that's really important if you are even playing this kind of crapshoot, because it is, and that's fine. There's with high risk, there's incredibly high upside, but this is not going to be one of those plays where you turn $1 into $1 billion.
Right. Like if it went to $1, it would be a $6 trillion company. That is twice as big as Saudi Aramco, which is the largest company in the world with a $3 trillion market cap. So it would be very hard to get your head around the idea that Luna would not just be the largest coin in the world, but also the largest financial entity on Earth. Okay. And again, it wouldn't be worth that much. But if, let's say there is some believable report that comes out Wednesday, and however they spin it, people believe it. A lot of people will stop selling and many more people will start buying. Just that buy-sell dynamic can cause some sort of disparity that makes it go up a lot in a day. It could hold that price for 10 minutes. It could hold it for but it can do something stupid. So while yes, I could not sleep holding that large a position in a coin that is definitely going to zero. I will say this: if you are gambling, if you want to play, whatever your angle is here, this thing's going to fucking zero. So if you put any money in there, you better expect that it can go to nothing and you're just walking away with nothing. But
yeah, you're playing roulette, right? Like if you don't hit, they're pulling it off the table and it's gone.
Exactly. But if you want an outsized bet on something stupid happening, that's why I left a little moon bag here, because I just, I know just from traditional markets, like, first of all, anytime people say, until I see the Chapter 11, until they fire Chapter 11 in court, nothing. Look at Hertz. Do you remember Hertz and Hertz going out of business, quote unquote, and falling to 2, and then all of a sudden it rallied fucking 8,000% one week because there was a report that it was going to be saved. It wasn't saved. It still got diluted. Everyone said, but these rumors are enough to cause these type of snapbacks. So that was my essential play, that Luna, giant piece of excrement, not really worth anything, but it was so extreme to one side. And look, I just happened to get lucky that I bought it and they turned off the spigot. I mean, if it had continued to make coins all weekend, I don't think my play would have worked. I think I would have lost 90% like everybody else who came down the road, but made a very nice bag. And now I'm just leaving a little moon bag in case something crazy happens. Not a call to necessarily buy Luna here, as like I said, it's still up 100x from those lows. And if it got to half a cent, it would have the same market cap as it did before it crashed, which would be pretty incredible. And boy, would you be salty if you were a Luna holder, because to see it at the same market cap before it went to zero, yet you still have zero, I think that would fuck with my head a little bit. But you know.
Yeah, is there and there was some pretty sad reports of people with big bags of Luna, and a lot of the hard thing is like if you bought on the way up $60, $70, $80, $100, hell, even if you bought a lot at $5, right, you were down so bad that it was essentially zero. But I definitely I definitely think it highlights the need for proper like risk management and some portfolio diversity and stuff like that too, right? Like it's tough to watch something like this go down. What is the other like the closest equivalent that you could think of in like, is it Enron? Is Enron the last thing? Like I could probably say Enron, and 50% of the people listening don't even know what that is at this point.
Yes, probably Enron.
Yeah, we're
Lehman Brothers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Lehman Brothers too.
Yeah. But Lehman Brothers, like they weren't. I mean, Lehman Brothers wasn't literally stealing money off the books and writing that it was there. They were just betting with your money with 40x leverage and pretending that it was okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
back then, the thought that a bank would trade on 40x leverage was anathema. This was a shock to the system and anybody who was watching. When I say 40x leverage right now, people are like, you pussy. What do you mean 40x? Get in there and make a real bet, bitch.
I feel obligated to say if you're playing with leverage of any kind, especially 40 times or more, do be careful. But yeah, so
what was crazy? A lot of people once people had seen Luna lose like $60, like plenty of smart people knew it was over. They were like, yeah, it's going to zero. And you saw a lot of people take shorts there, but it was so volatile on the way down. It would go down 40% and then have a 300% spike. If you were short, you got liquidated 10 times on the way down just because it would have these crazy reflexive snapback. So unless you were lucky enough to like short at 80 to where it never bounced back to that high, there were shorts getting liquidated even when they were right. It was crazy. It was just the algos themselves could not keep up with your debt ratio. That is how quick it was moving in both directions. Just one of the most amazing things I had ever seen.
Right. Oh man, what a week. All right, let's shift gears. I'm sure we'll see more coming out of that. They do have a recovery plan. My knee-jerk reaction to all of this is Luna is dead. You can trade for some volatility and make some plays as you did, but I think the only hope for Luna, and I'm just gonna finish my thought there, is meme coin status at this point. And I've seen a lot of people saying that, and it could be that's your outsized bet, I guess. I don't think that they're saving it. I don't.
And I just want to give you all perspective. If you're going to play that thesis, the largest meme coin in the world has like a $30 billion market cap, which is, I guess, about a third of a cent. So if you were going to buy it here, again, don't worry about where it came from. If it got to a third of a cent, it'd be as large as Doge. All right. And that's your seminal meme coin there. So just keep everything in perspective if you are looking at it through that thesis.
Well, Doge is down bad too. It's got an 11 billion at this point, but as they all are. I actually thought you were going to say a $560 billion market cap, but
because of Bitcoin.
Yeah, your favorite meme coin.
Yeah. All right, what was I going to say? US Tether. Yeah, I lost it. if I remember.
Oh no, you said if it goes to 3 cents, it'll be as large as Dogecoin.
No, I had a tether point.
Oh, well,
to it. No, not important. Keep moving.
No, well, what I was going to say, and I did have this thought while you were talking too, was, Tether is always one that's under a lot of scrutiny and speculation that, they don't have the actual assets to back it properly and that it could go. Thank God. I mean, that maybe seems to be true, or like Tether held its own during this, because if Tether started to go down with that, I think we're having an incredibly different conversation this morning. Tether falling along with this, it would be an absolute disaster.
Well, that's what everyone was watching over the word contagion. Okay, why is that scary? It was a word we heard in 2009, right? It was never about one bank going out of business. It was about the knock-on effect of people seeing that and then starting to remove liquidities from elsewhere. So after Luna collapsed, all eyes were on Tether. Because if Tether had unpegged, then a lot of the worst case scenarios could have happened, and you saw huge moves into USDC, which I get. You could say it's the cleanest shirt in the laundry hamper. I don't know if it would be. I don't know if it's the end all and be all of stablecoins, but it's what people consider the safest at the moment. So you saw a lot of people selling their Tether to go buy USDZ. That's scary. You sell enough of something, you could unpeg it, right? So we were seeing the worry over the weekend was this contagion effect about what's happening with Luna and Terra spilling over into the other stable coins. So far, we have avoided that. Worst case scenarios off the table up until now. But those are the type of things to watch to see if the wheels really come off. So pay attention.
For sure. All right. Well, let's switch into some NFTs for the final little bit of the show. Obviously, there's a bunch of Azuki things to kind of unpack and do that. We can save a little bit of it for tomorrow's show and so on as well. Luna crypto markets, obviously the biggest talk of the town last week, but Azuki managed to make some headlines in that too. First, I'm really going to quickly just go over the Phantom Network. Did you see any of this? Did you watch the reveal? You didn't? Did you? You had a couple, didn't you? Or did you end up getting in on that?
No.
I know a lot of AlphaMint had was pretty heavy into the Phantom Network. Bit of a wild ride going down there. It was up to about a 4 ETH average traded price. On reveal, it did take a pretty sharp dive down. It's sitting at about a 2. I'll just give it the old refresh. I still got the touch.
I heard a lot of this one's going up after reveal. Everyone was convinced it was the next Azuki. It was going up after reveal. So.
Yeah, I mean, they look good. The biggest thing, and some FUD coming out of it, was from the Murray house side of it, where it was pointed out that maybe a little bit too much inspiration was derived from the Murray project.
And it reminded me of a combination, right? Because weren't the Murray ones like a little dark? Like the
Murray was very dark, yeah.
Dark. And then, so it looked like Azuki quality art with the darkness of Murray.
Yeah, it's weird. All of these anime-inspired projects seem to be taking like slightly different angles on it too. Like one's completely side-facing, one's more, straight on. The other one's at an angle. This one's almost like down. You're almost looking up at them a little bit. Again, I think this looks good. It's definitely holding its own, especially in this market. 41,000 ETH in volume traded, 2.5 or 2.2 ETH floor right now. We'll look at a couple of the highest last sales, and I want everyone to keep in mind that when I said I took last week off, I really did take a lot of it off. So a lot of this is actually just pre-market. Yeah, I was going to say these are pretty hot looking ones.
Are those one of ones?
So. This is where things got a little bit interesting. They did take down some of the artwork of some of the more rare ones to redo it or fix it, as they said. Risky proposition.
Pixelmon.
Risky proposition when somebody's already spent 37 ETH on it, 30 ETH, 25, 22.
You've seen with Azuki, the moment people buy, they're part of the cult. They'll take anything. It's like, okay, daddy, fuck me in the ass, whatever you need. They don't care. They're like, oh, okay, give me a fucking doodle of whatever. I'll go explain to my whole Twitter stream about why you are God's gift to NFT.
If there was only one of these, I think that would be a hilarious one of one. I don't know if everybody would agree on that one, but yeah, I mean,
you see it with the Azuki people, like, oh, Zagabond murdered 53 million people in Laos. It's like, oh, but yeah, it was a while ago. You know, whatever.
Well, actually, okay. So on that note, let's get into Azuki, because I think that's obviously the second most important topic to come out of last week. Dekenza saying anime is here for good. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, my feeling for anime is not like super strong personally, but I am aware enough of the fact that in outside of NFTs and crypto, anime is just a gigantic juggernaut of an industry. Same with video games, gaming. And I do think that, anime and P2E kind of have their own, swag in the market. I don't think that they're meta. You might see more attention flip to it and go through these cycles or whatever. But yeah, good, here for good, 100%. People just like it too much. I like it, not too much in the sense that like you shouldn't like it that much, but like it's such a beloved part of culture at this point that I don't think it plays by the same rules as like a pixel art meta or just a standard cute PFP meta, or we saw a lot of like tool passes really be the recipient of a big swell, and then they kind of comes and goes and whatnot. I don't think that they're playing by the same rules at this point. Azuki, why don't you just hit me with the lowdown, because it took a pretty nasty tumble, falling from I don't know what 25 30 ETH it was up to, more, I guess, average price 34. I guess that's
I think it was actually only 18 or 19 before the controversy. It had already dipped quite a bit just because of the market conditions.
True. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, I saw it fall down as low as 7, which to me felt like a great buy if you were high in liquid and willing to take that risk. But as far as I could see, and I did pull up the article and I saw a lot of the memes about, oh, I'm learning. The founder was basically, and this was self-admitted too, right? Like they put out this article. A lot of people were speculating that other people knew about it and they were kind of holding their feet to the fire to go admit it first. But yeah, the funks, the zunks, and the tendies, right? That was the projects that they were essentially being accused of or admitting to rug pulling in the past, before Azuki's came out. What was I don't know, just give me the rundown, really.
Yeah. Zagabond created funks, he created zunks, and he created tendies. And they were all rugged, and that pissed people off. I actually found the whole controversy laughable. Anyone who bought funks or zunks and didn't think it was a rug probably needs to have their head checked. Funks were a literal photo flip.
Yep, 1-to-1 flipping of the punks. Yep.
Like there wasn't even any new art involved. You just mirror image the punks. Like,
yeah, I don't know who buys that and thinks that like it's a good sound.
Like you buy that and think that the team is gonna fucking stick around and build something out. What are you fucking like? This was my whole problem. Like they're trying to paint this guy out to be some evil idiot. And I will say, he did some stupid ass shit too, because with Zunks, he pretended he was a woman and he pretended the whole team was women. That is fucked up. And he, I don't know the details about, he said he was gonna give the contract to the community key. I don't know what the exact details were about leaving those projects, but quite frankly, I don't think any of those projects in his mind were ever going to take off to a point where he was going to commit all of his time to this. And that people are equating Azuki to those other projects like, oh, it's just another one of his rugs. It really does not seem to be. It seems that it is a very high quality project with high quality art, connections, important hires, and of course the addition of the Hello Kitty, the company that brought Hello Kitty to prominence. It doesn't at all feel like any of the other projects he conceived. And I just have a problem with people bringing their morals into investing. Like, I really don't care that he did those things. Like, I find the people who bought those projects to be morons. And anybody who even continued to support those projects, they're just unsophisticated NFT investors who, on some level, that rug may be the best thing that happened to you. It should teach you what not to buy, right? And when you look at Azuki, it wasn't formed like any of those other projects. It was a 1 ETH Dutch auction. It obviously had a lot of thought and care and effort put into it. I know, and boy, when he went on the Twitter space, I forget who it was. I think it was Andrew Wang held the space for him the next day. Man,
I wish I had heard that one. Maybe there's a replay I can go listen to.
Can we just make it a blanket rule that if you get caught up in a controversy, do not go on Twitter fucking spaces the next day, the next week, maybe ever. Go to your PR firm, tell them what happened, have them make a public statement and spin it for the public like every other corporation on the planet. That Zagabond went into this space and just buried himself with stupidity. Was hilarious to me, as I don't know who advised him to do that. All of that aside, Azuki starts to 10. It's going to 0. Azuki's a rug. Now, mind you, 99% of the people saying this are people who didn't own Azuki, are people who wanted Azuki. I saw Apes saying this. I saw Doodles saying this. I saw Cool Cat saying this. All these projects have a reason to hate Azuki. Azuki stole the Apes' glory. Doodles and Cats were marginalized by Azuki because they were supposed to be the next blue chips. Those communities had reasons to gripe, okay? And they were the ones out there saying, oh, it's a rug. How could you fucking hold it? What pisses me off about those arguments is I don't even think they care about the morals. I think if the same thing was said about their own projects, they would stand by them the same way Azuki holders stood by Azuki. And this is something that I said after Fishy Fam, and I don't care what the project is, I believe it. Once it is sold and once it goes out into the public, it is as much owned by the community, if not more. It is up to the community as much as the team as to what happens with that project going forward. Take Funks as a fucking example. Once it was rugged by the creator, who we know is Zagabond now, that community ended up taking it to a 4 ETH floor. That funk moment last year.
When it certainly wasn't his like hard work or energy that brought it there.
At that point, he was gone. That was all the community. Okay, so the idea that you're a shithead if you hold is it. Go fuck yourself. Anyone out here trying to act holier than thou, like I'm better because I've never run it. Go fuck yourself. I find those arguments to be so disingenuous. Your virtue signaling is lost on me, and I hope Azuki goes to 100 ETH now. So fuck off.
Sound like you just broke something. No, I mean, it's an important discussion. I mean, he has since gone on, or in that article, to say that, you know, all of the royalties that were accumulated will be given back to the community fund and the mint costs and all of that stuff. Pretty easy to say once you've had a success like Azuki to kind of stuff the coffers and you can go back and make it right. But and again, I really want to make it clear that I'm not advocating for this type of behavior. But when you look at the funks, particularly the funks, I mean, you can't go into a project that literally just takes, at the time, the biggest NFT PFP, the CryptoPunks, flips them 180 degrees horizontally and puts that out as their project. You can't take that for more than what it is. You know there shouldn't be any like expectation of success. Like the fact that it did was because of the community, like Free Market said. It wasn't because of any ties to Azuki. Obviously, this was all well before Azuki. It wasn't because of the founder's work or whatever. It was just the community doing it and, kind of almost a fuck you to the CryptoPunks. But, I don't think that what this guy did was right at all, especially pretending to be a women and women-led teams and all of that stuff. I do think that there needs to be some kind of accountability for it, but I don't think it needs to come at the cost of Azuki. Do you think that them bringing on the Hello Kitty person executive as the CEO of Azuki was maybe a preemptive reaction to this, like saying like it's this guy's company now, he's running it?
No, he was not brought on as the CEO. He is just an advisor to the board.
Oh, well, oh, my apologies. What was the other project? The head of Billboard was brought on to be the CEO of Doodles.
I don't know. Doodles hired a CEO last week. I didn't.
Yeah, the former CEO of Billboard. Yeah. Nice. Sorry, I was getting those two kind of mixed up in terms of what the hire was for. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see what goes on, but I guess Azuki, as it turns out, not infallible. We, leading up to it, basically said they had done all of the right things. They were flawless. They knew their shit and they were executing. I think the execution of the Azuki project stands on its own merit. Again, I've never owned an Azuki. I don't own an Azuki. There's literally zero benefit to me seeing Azuki go higher or lower. But yeah, I think the expectations are completely different. I think it's up to each individual to decide how outraged they are at this. But Azuki holding a 14 ETH floor right now did kind of bounce back up to 17 ETH. And honestly, despite all of this, I don't think it's going anywhere. And it's not something that's going to keep me up at night. So. Okay, yeah, I think we could start to wrap that up. I'll throw some tunes on and finish up. Kaiju King Scientists going down today, 7 p.m.
And that's
Eastern.
a free mint, one per wallet. So get in there and get those eligible for everybody.
They're doing cool things where you can get traits of different projects. Starwolves has the goggles. If you're the holder of one of those NFTs in your wallet.
Yeah, and
that's a pretty cool mechanism.
Yeah, and I think people are so severely underestimating Augmented Labs and Kaiju Kings. I have talked about how as we come out of this bear period, P2E is going to be one of the sectors that brings us out of it. I think that gaming is right on the cusp here. When I see the games that are being created now on chain and that use a utility token, an ERC20, I really, really think that this is going to be one of the areas that leads us out of the bear, and that would the Kaiju Kings, I think, are largely looked at as a profile picture project by most people. Most people I talk to just think they are PFP. So they're being severely underestimated within P2E, which I think is going to bring us out of it. And Bakram wants me to talk about Raid Party. I got up to 9th place this week. I did.
Well, you were at 8th, weren't you?
I was at 7th, but
oh, okay.
So here's how it worked, right? I got to 7th place, and before the last snapshot, which was the week before for the leaderboard, I had a choice, and if I had continued to try to enhance, it would have put me in 6th place, which was essentially no different from 7th place. But if I was downgraded, it would have knocked me out of 20th place. So there was no reason for me to enhance. But if I failed, I would have been knocked out of the top 10, which would have severely limited how many tickets I got that week towards the leaderboard. So I did nothing. And then after the snapshot was taken, I went to go enhance, and I was downgraded, which sucked. I am now in ninth. I was, and then it knocked me down to 10th place. And then this week I was able to do a little enhancing on my fighters, and I got them up to, and I was able to get back up to 9th place. And then this week I'll be doing 2 hero enhances on Friday once I have enough confetti from my farms. And my favorite plays coming out of the bear market are generative art. So that would be art blocks specifically too, and P2E. And my favorite P2E would be Star Wolves, Ether Orcs, and Raid Party, and Kaiju Kings. I find these 4 projects to be where most of my focus is nowadays. And that is, again, that's honestly, I have been putting most of my available liquidity into those areas, into Gen Art and into P2E. And for me, it's a waiting game. I have a different strategy than most people. And I'm not saying one is right or the other, but I'll describe it to you. And while most people are looking for whatever is hype that day or that week so that they can flip into the volume, and that's a great strategy. People build fucking amazing stacks that way, and nobody could knock it. I have a completely different strategy, and it's only because it plays to my strength. Luna was a good example. I like to look for things in the market that are extremes and that people have left for dead. I'm a garbage man. I like to clean up everybody else's garbage. MFers, when everybody left them for dead in December, that was what I wanted to buy. And it took 2 months to play out, but they went from 0.08 to 7E. All right. And this is how I feel about P2E right now. I don't know if it's going to start this week. I don't know if it's going to start in 3 weeks. But when the bear starts to go away and we come out of it, it is where I think a lot of money is going to rotate. So it's where I've been positioning myself. And Raid Party, Star Wolves, Ether Orcs, and Kaiju Kings are by far my 4 favorite. But there's, Metroverse, Creeps. These are honorable mentions as well. Eternal Elves, all of great products out there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you want to touch on Star Wolves for a brief moment, we had a really nice sweep. Particularly the person that came in and swept yesterday picked up 30 generative wolves, but and of course, big deal, 5 Genesis wolves, and that was. Do you want to explain who that was?
Well, yeah, that was Danny. Shout out to Danny Seed Phrase, who owns the rarest punk in existence. He's had
the number 1 crypto punk. Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. It has 7 traits. You would recognize it immediately. It's one of the most famous. He has had it listed 1 or 2 times for $100 million, but quickly took it off the market as he thought he was really undercutting himself with that price. So this guy he's a thought leader. He is a true OG. He's one of the most important people in this industry. And yeah, I couldn't have been happier after his purchase yesterday. We're not fucking around, guys.
Yeah, no, I mean,
there's things coming, and I'm not fucking around. None of us.
He tweeted out, "I've never been more excited about what's currently being built in the NFT space with a rocket ship." And then I think about a half an hour to an hour later, went to town on the Star Wolves floor. I don't want to make any assumptions about what he meant by that, but it's a pretty damn good feeling.
Word is getting around into certain circles. I can't imagine who is getting that word around, but word's getting around to certain circles. I think people understand what Star Wolves is building. They're starting to get it.
Yeah.
Which is why I said this whole time was just an opportunity for those.
We've been working hard on that project nonstop, and we're looking forward to. Well, we got Moon Monday coming up today, so there's going to be some nice announcements. Of course, we're going to do the Moon Monday Spaces at 4 p.m. Eastern. But you know what? I mean, regardless of that, in this downturn, while everything was going down last week, the community was great, supporting each other, talking through what was going on. We were playing some games together. We did game night, had a little poker tournament last night. And it's just the people that are there and having fun with it and enjoying it are, just so good, so strong. And we love each and every one of you, even if you're not, super, super talkative, or engaged. We love and appreciate the support from everybody at all stages along the way. It's been a hell of a ride, and seeing stuff like this is makes me very excited, because it makes you feel like you're on the right track. You're getting to something special, but that it's just the beginning too. That's it's a great motivator for sure.
Nationwide is on your side.
All right, my dude, let's wrap this up. Speaking of Star Wolves, got some stuff to start planning for today. Great to be back up on the stage with you. You want to finish off with anything before I do the little rundown?
That's it.
That's all. All right, guys. GM Tom Nook, you're a little bit late. We're actually just wrapping up the show, but as I'll do every morning, we are recording this, and it will be up on YouTube for you guys to check out later. If you tuned in late, I'm not going to lie to you. The majority of the conversation was definitely centered around the crypto market, the stock market, and then of course a really long and great discussion about Luna. Free Market killed it as always when he's talking about that stuff, and I feel a hell of a lot smarter than I did 2 hours ago. So I appreciate that, Free Market. We talked a little bit about the Phantom Network, PXN, swapping out some of their ultra rare ones, and I guess redoing them. And then, of course, quite a good discussion about Azuki, what all went down there, and whether or not they're going to make it through. It seems like they were. We will be back on live tomorrow, 9:30. We will continue the discussion. I'm sure there will be more to talk about with the markets. We're going to talk probably a little bit heavier about NFTs and whatnot. Had a great kind of P2E discussion towards the end of this show, so maybe we'll dig in a little bit deeper on that too, because I do think that there's a lot of opportunity out there. Happy to be back up on the stage with you. I appreciate everyone's patience for the week off, and it's been a blast. Free Market, get us out of here. Free Market, say the words.
Look at the tables, D-Gens.